What up, YouTube? Really cool video for you today. So I've been working on another video about cheating, and I've been doing research into some of the most famous cheaters, both online and IRL. And I stumbled across this article about how Spain cheated to win the 2020 Paralympics. It's insane. As I was reading it, I sent it to my editor just to show like, hey, is this as crazy as I think it is? Should this be included? And he said one of his favorite YouTubers had made a video about it. So I checked him out. His name is Austin McConnell. We're gonna watch some of his videos in today's video, and he is very sick. He does video essays, well-researched, unique content. Like me, he probably goes a little too wide and could maybe focus his content more to grow, but who am I to talk? He's got more subscribers than me, and he makes very good content. So let's check him out now, Austin McConnell.
We're in the final moments of the men's intellectual disability basketball finals, and Spain is up by 24. The entire country is, needless to say, thrilled. And why wouldn't they be? Unlike the cutthroat Olympics, the Paralympic Games are probably the most beloved sporting event in the whole world. It's a celebration of triumph over hardship, the wonder of the human spirit. It's one of the few times where athletes are all pulling for each other, and there are no real losers. The last few seconds tick away, and the team comes out on top.
It's hard watching this knowing that they scammed. Knowing that they cheated the test.
All the adversity these 12 young men have overcome to climb atop the podium and receive their much-deserved gold medals. They're soon-to-be national treasures, a testament to guts, grit.
And who would do this? Who would go out there and scam to win? It's like there was a movie with Johnny Knoxville that came out where he did this. And by the end of the movie, you realize that like that's cringe and unbelievable. So much so that only a comedian would do it.
But little did the world know, it was a lie. All of it was a lie.
They weren't disabled when Spain scammed the 2000 Paralympics. From what I read in the little article, and I think it's fine because we're really here to check out Austin's content and the way they tell a story and things like that, was that they had them take the test and miss answers on purpose so that they would fall into a certain band on the differently abled mentally people.
Doping remains a notorious issue for both the Olympic and Paralympic Games, but especially for the latter. It's easy to see why. Due to the very nature of the event, many of the participants are on performance-enhancing drugs to treat physical disabilities.
Oh, that's interesting.
Policing drug abuse during the Games has always been a challenge. A common form of doping is boosting, by which athletes with a spinal cord injury induce autonomic dysreflexia and spike their blood pressure for increased performance.
This is like a normal thing?
This practice was banned by the International Paralympic Committee in 1994, but it's still an ongoing problem in the sport.
It's like a disability-specific performance-enhancing drug.
See, the doping control program was designed to police participants from using drugs to gain an unfair physical advantage. But what if an athlete desired instead to be disadvantaged? What if, say, a non-disabled person pretended to be disabled to compete? How would you police that? But, I mean, come on, why would you need to police that? Who would be so morally repugnant to try it? This is Fernando Martín Vicente. At the time of the Sydney Games, he was the president of the Spanish Federation of Sports People with Intellectual Disabilities. And by the time our story concludes...
Who even gets into this as a career and would also have, like they said, the lack of morals to do it? Right? It's like, hey, I've spent my whole life working with people who are differently abled, helping them achieve their dreams, helping them compete in the Olympics, things like this. And then also he just cheats. He just brings in people who aren't. Just why don't you go do any other? Just be a politician, man. It's like the same thing, but then no one hates you. Or at least half the people hate you. You can get money and notoriety in many different ways. It feels insane to do it through like these Olympics.
Grants don't come easy. There's a lot of organizations seeking them and only so much money to go around. So priority goes to associations that have a track record of success. And
okay, actually it's starting to make more sense. He's trying to get more grants and funding for the organization.
At that point,
but at what point, like what is the point of the organization if it's not even doing?
Only thing on
it's not doing what it says it's doing.
So why not, just for 1 year, enter a team that's almost guaranteed to win? Yeah, but
Oh, just once, just the tip, just to see how it feels. Wow, he's doing a really good job at making this seem like a reasonable thought. We cheat at the Special Olympics one time, and then we get money, and we use that money to help people who actually should be here for years.
well, what if your team wasn't actually disabled?
I see.
How much easier could it be to come in first? And again, you're only doing it the one time. Just win a gold medal, and the incentives for grants is guaranteed. Your organization will stay afloat for the foreseeable future, you'll employ plenty of people, and in doing so, your association can continue to assist those who are mentally disabled for maybe decades to come. It's a classic case of trying to justify shady behavior in the name of the greater good. So Fetty set out to build a super team.
It is not the morally craziest thing I've ever heard, which is a far cry from "I don't understand this man" 2 minutes ago.
All that was necessary was to recruit some fairly competitive basketball players who were willing to keep their mouths shut about the scam, and things were set. I mean, they really only needed to hire like 2 or 3 players tops to pull something like this off, right? I guess 5 if you wanted to stack your side of the court during play, but Spain took it even further. They recruited 10. 10. If you're like me, the only thing on your mind is how? See, in order to qualify as a participant in the intellectual disability basketball event, a prospective player is required to complete a litany of mental tests to determine their eligibility. The competitor must be determined to have an IQ of no more than 75.
Using an IQ test is kind of weird because
had to purposely fail a series of intelligent. Naturally, I decided to test this myself. What if I was one of the 10? Could I fake my way through an IQ test into the category of mental disability? I needed to score low enough to qualify for the event, but also high enough so as to not attract any suspicion from hypothetical outside auditors.
This was not wheelchair. I was wrong about it being wheelchair. In fact, it was clickbait in the other article I read. They are playing regular basketball. It's a mental or intellectual disability event.
IQ is also fluid. It changes with age, and in that respect, I was a little nervous. I mean, I hadn't taken a math test in almost a decade.
People with intellectual disabilities probably aren't that much worse at basketball at all, I would say.
But I'm trying to fail.
At a basic level, the game isn't that confusing.
The challenge wasn't going to be so much scoring under 75, but scoring over 55. It is incredibly hard to judge that kind of thing. You go into the test blind, and there's no real way of gauging your progress as you take it. So I think the trick to this is going to be to answer in a way that's close to right, but not quite correct. 2 women start at the same point. They walk in opposite directions for 3 meters, then turn right and walk another 4 meters. How far apart are they? Some Gobelsteins are Pajanters, and all Pajanters are Goebbelsens. Are some Gobelsteins definitely Goebbelsens? It's too early for this. Oh, I answered that one right on accident. After about 40 minutes away with an IQ score of 25.
Oh no, that's way too low, dude.
Shot that a bit. This whole thing was a Hollywood movie. The main character would undoubtedly be this guy, Carlos Ribagorda. Seaman was one of the 10 recruited players that was in on the scam, and during the games he helped propel Spain to victory, but a few weeks after the closing ceremony, he sent his medal back to Paralympic headquarters, as well as his team kit and the 150 pounds that each Spanish athlete was given for the Sydney trip. Was it a sudden change of heart? Had his conscience finally gotten the best of him? Don't count on it. The truth? Carlos Ribagorda was an undercover investigative journalist, and he was blowing the whistle on the whole operation. So details are a little
Oh, there's so many layers. Wait, this guy is recruiting regular Joes and either forging results or having them placed low on tests so that they can perform at the Special Olympics. And then this guy, for some reason, gets a whiff of it and goes undercover.
After 2 years of work to successfully infiltrate the ring,
2 years?
Man was...
There were 5 months of training with not a single disabled person in sight. The 2 genuinely disabled players came from outside Madrid.
In all that time, the only medical test he was ever subjected to? 6 push-ups, then a blood pressure check. 110/78. Think I'm good. So they hit the floor in Sydney, and during their first match, the team played so well against their disabled opponents that they were up 30 points by halftime. At that point, their coach told them to slow down and let the other team shoot more, saying allegedly,
"Lads, move down a gear, or they'll figure out you're not disabled."
Oh no.
So
that would be an excellent excuse to get out of looking bad. I was a double agent. I was trying to reveal what's happening here.
The entire week they cut down team after team after team, and suddenly we're back to the medal ceremony. As the anthem plays, as with every event in the Paralympics, reporters begin to snap photos of the champions, and soon those photos are sent to newspapers all over Spain. But
is someone gonna recognize like their cousin or some shit?
Funny thing about photos, they tend to get seen. When the team's picture appeared on the front page of a popular Madrid sports daily, it didn't take too long for players and coaches in that photo to get recognized. In an online article, the comments section began to be filled with people claiming to know this guy or that guy, how they weren't disabled at all. Officials caught wind of the brewing storm and advised the players to wear sunglasses, hats, and grow beards so they wouldn't be recognized when the team arrived back home.
What? That was the plan? Hey guys, we're gonna get this all figured out. We got you guys some Ray-Bans. Make sure you grow your beard out. Maybe a hat or two. Come on.
The fallout was so bad that the IPC announced,
I think C-Man is not an investigative journalist, right?
after a decade of investigation and court battles, Fernando Martin Vicente was found guilty of fraud and forgery, and he was fined 5,400 euros. A lot of folks would call it a slap on the wrist, but to be fair, he was also ordered to return the 150,000 euros that he received from sponsorships due to the team's victory. As for those 10 fake disabled Paralympians, when all was said and done, they walked away with no charges. This is the point in the video where I'm supposed to come up with some kind of moral, to wax poetic about how crime doesn't pay and cheaters never prosper. But I can't, because that's not true. The world has plenty of athletes who will gladly bend and break the rules to get a bigger paycheck, and many of them prosper far beyond what the straight shooters ever will.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Could you imagine being the guy who cheated to play in the Special Olympics? Every gathering, whenever you meet someone new, how are you gonna like boot up Tinder? They're gonna meet you and be like, wait, do I know you?
Cheaters may prosper, but they won't be happy. In a later interview, Seaman said this about the team's attitude during the medal ceremony.
The whole thing was a farce, really. We stood there and listened, but it was a false medal. It was a false national anthem. Nobody really wanted to talk about it afterwards.
See, that's the saddest thing about all this to me. Winning wasn't enjoyable for the team because the team's victory was a lie. A gold
Was that the saddest thing? Not the teams that lost that could have won?
medal shines brightest when it's won fairly and honorably. It's not nearly as satisfying
I feel like there's a lot of things that are worse.
to win when there really was no challenge in the first place.
Hey, we cheated in the Paralympics, but we were really sad about it, so it hurts us more than most.
Right? It's that they stole the medals from other teams that
Thank
actually
you.
were battling these hard mental disabilities. They robbed those Paralympians of the opportunity to grab a moment of victory, a moment that many of them sorely needed. Cheat and get away with it, and every prize you receive will feel hollow and meaningless. Oh, and cheat and get caught, and be prepared to have that stuff stick to you for the rest of your life. So, yeah, stay in school, kids.
That's a good video. I really liked it. What did you guys think? One of your favorite YouTube vids? All right, yeah, I like the visual style as well. The superhero one's one of the more recent ones. Oh, that might be nice. Oh, right here. My absurd quest to revive a terrible superhero. Hey, this is new, so this is like what he's been working on lately.
So back in
I'm down. Shout out to
January,
Squarespace.
I got this weird idea to create my very own cinematic universe using abandoned superheroes straight out of the public domain. Characters with backstories and abilities so absurd and unpopular that they were thrown away almost immediately after they were originally published. And for better or worse, this concept has stuck with me, and evidently with many of you too. My inbox is full of fan art, storyline
That's cool.
pitches, resumes. Even though it started as a complete joke, over the past 3 months, I wrote an entire movie for the first superhero.
I think writing a movie for a public domain character is kind of goated. I think a lot of writers in the industry get their start writing spec scripts for a show that already exists that has like a really clear tone. I know, for example, that Childish Gambino, can't remember his real name, wrote a bunch of Simpsons episodes, and that's how he got discovered for 30 Rock and things like that. So it's good.
In the mid-1950s, the United States Senate formed a subcommittee to investigate the growing problem of juvenile delinquency in America, and the comic book business found its
Comics were causing us to be naughty, chat.
By the end of the 50s, starting a new comic book company seemed like one of the worst business decisions imaginable. Nobody was buying, and even if they did, the newly implemented censorship of the Comics Code Authority ensured that any stories being told were watered down and uninspired.
What kind of things were they taking out of comics? Right? It feels like you could have a comic where they were stopping bad guys. Don't we like that kind of propaganda for our youth?
Sensing a hole in the market, he launched IW Publications, a super low-budget comic book company that would sell primarily in grocery stores, usually in packs 3 issues for a quarter. Waldman's strategy was simple: flood discount stores with tons of different comics from every genre imaginable. Sell all of them for super cheap.
Was that one sexy?
Comics.
Intimate confessions. They said we were too young to love. I don't know if I want to read that.
All those comic book companies that had closed their doors over the previous years, they sold their printing plates to random companies at rock-bottom prices just to get rid of excess equipment. Walden meticulously tracked these abandoned printing plates down,
Wow. Also
bought
in
them
movies
from
back then.
scrap markets and aftermarket options for super cheap, and just fired them back up and began printing those comics again under his own company's label. Sometimes he'd make sure to acquire the actual intellectual property rights for these stories, but a lot of times he totally didn't, and just
He's just
sold
printing
those
them.
stories anyway, occasionally just designing new cover art or giving the characters in the stories different names.
Wait, he's just yoinking? Frisky Fables is now Buster Bear?
Using this borderline,
He just
if not
stole.
totally illegal strategy,
It's funny when you get deep into a lot of like OG businesses where it's like, man, how did the Waltons start the Walmart empire? And it's always like, well, they firebombed all the other stores in the city. So if we wanted to eat, we had to shop with the Waltons. And you go, oh man, that kind of sucks. It kind of sucks that they did that. But I really need to go get something, and they're open 24/7.
And all that brings us back to Daring Adventures, one of IW's many attempts at the horror suspense genre. It began with issue number 9 and ran for 8 issues until the company's final days in 1964. The last installment was Daring Adventures 18. On the cover is
I forgot that he was just trying to find a hero to write a movie for, and I was enthralled by this IW Comics tangent. I actually don't even care about Atlas that much anymore.
2 interesting things here. Number 1, the origin story on the cover doesn't match the plot of the actual comic at all.
Yo! 1960s clickbait. This is a scientist turning into Atlas. That's just not real. When someone says, I ate the hottest pepper in the world, you kind of know it, but man, comics were doing it first.
Atlas tells the story of Jim Randall, a wimpy and down-on-his-luck office clerk who has eyes for a lady named Linda Thompson, who has just started working down the office hall as a stenographer. Jim shoots his shot and offers to walk Linda home one night, and to his surprise, she agrees. Outside,
Wow. Respectfully.
the pair run into her younger brother Andy, who is caught in a fight with another kid named Pug. Linda steps up to defend her little brother, and Duke begins taunting her. Eventually, Jim finally
Wimpy
decides
Jim
to
Randall doesn't look
intervene
like
and
me.
immediately
Find a new slant.
finds himself punched in the face. Duke pieces out, and Linda pulls Jim and Andy inside. Utterly humiliated and nursing his wounds, Linda calls Jim out as a weak-kneed, sniveling mouse.
He stepped up. He tried. He did the thing.
Jim goes, that night is visited in a dream by Atlas, the Greek god of strength. Having lost his patience with all the cowardly men on the face of the earth, Atlas teaches Jim a series of secret exercises to build his body.
What?
This teaches Jim
It's funny to think that the god of strength is like, no, just lay on your back and just fucking shake those tootsies. I think Atlas was maybe more intrigued by the feet than the exercise, you know? Oh yeah, spread those toes apart, man. Come on. Oh yeah, and put on the short shorts for daddy.
Jim dons a superhero costume featuring leopard print underpants styled after circus strongmen and takes up the mantle of Atlas. And in a stunning turn of events, nobody thought this was an entertaining comic.
What? With the god?
For one reason or another, perhaps because the end result was lackluster, Atlas Comics never actually happened. The comic was never published, and the printing plates were quietly filed away. Well, guess who eventually got their hands on them? Whether they got permission or not isn't clear, but somehow...
I thought it was gonna be him. I went, holy shit, this dude bought the plates?
Found its way into the IW catalog and eventually hit shelves headlining the final issue of Daring Adventures. So regardless of the story's ridiculous origins, it has since fallen into the public domain. You can make your own adaptation of him, and that is what I have done. What
he wrote his own
Atlas apart? I'm glad I asked. Meet Jim Randall, a timid and aimless IT guy at Comic Corporation. With the company set to be downsized due to poor performance, corporate sends an assessor by the name...
What insane animation he did for this video. I look nothing like him. You guys are crazy. He's got black hair. And I'm also so fucking strong.
There, the two run into Andy getting pulverized by Pug, and Jim finds himself clocked by Butch, a henchman for the mysterious mob boss, Duke Cazzini. After Linda is forced to take matters into her own hands, she dresses Jim down and tells him to hit the road. That night, while in bed licking his wounds, Jim gets visited by Atlas and views a ghostly gallery of his...
Okay, when he said he wrote a screenplay, I feel like this is the same story. Am I losing my mind?
Jim has done nothing meaningful in his life, and worse, he's too fearful to step up and be a hero when called upon to help those in need. After seeing how pathetic and aimless he's been for the first quarter of his life, Jim gets angry. He knows he's meant to do more with his life than just work
Blur,
at a
you're meant
job
to do more
he
with
hates,
your life.
go home, eat potato chips, watch TV, and then die. He agrees to train
The lesson
Jim.
is that Atlas is perfect as is. That's what it feels like, right? He's like, man, these dumbasses made some comics and they weren't good at all. They were so bad. So anyway, here's my comic, and it's the exact same.
There he spends an entire summer following Atlas's divine training regimen until he gets straight up jacked. With a new lease on life, Jim travels back home and starts getting his world in order. He joins a fitness club, gets promoted, renovates his house, and even shoots another shot with Linda. But things have gone quite downhill while he's been away. Linda lets slip that Andy is taken up with the Duke's gang, and she fears her little brother's getting in way too...
I also don't understand the time period. It feels like a modern accounting office, but for some reason, her brother is like a Wild West kid with a ruffled shirt and a bow tie. Why are we in a saloon now? This is so jarring to me. And why is there like a Roman Atlas god?
Jim visits the bar that the Duke uses as a hideout one night, and after donning the signature costume, breaks in and tries to get Andy, chases the mob boss down during an Act 3 getaway plane sequence. But don't worry, I won't spoil the ending for you, because while I said that I spent the last 3 months writing a script, I also might have spent that time prepping an animated adaptation.
Is that what we just saw?
So the entire movie has been storyboarded, research and development for characters and major set pieces is pretty much done, and you know something? I think I'm gonna make this thing. If you all want it, I'm leaving it up to you.
It's just Atlas, right? I feel like he updated part of the setting, but not the morals or the characters or even the story itself. I don't think he updated anything besides he's an accountant now.
To that end, I have opened a
Kickstarter. It all makes sense now.
Link in
the problem is, why fucking buy the cow when we got the milk for free? I not only know what is going to happen in this, I know what is going to happen twice because he just told me the story twice, once with a new veneer of digital animation.
These bargain bin superheroes were made super fast.
See, the cool thing is it's in the public domain, so I could just yoink him. I could just beat him to the punch and make a better Atlas. And you know what my Atlas deals with? toxic masculinity. Real shit. None of this like, the girl won't go out with me, so I gotta go get buff. That's some level 1 stuff, King.
You know those terrible, like, straight-to-video animated Barbie movies? That's sort of the vibe I'm going.
Those are goated. Don't you ever talk shit about those. Kickstart Atlas. Link in the description.
Is sponsored by Squarespace.
Shout out to
They can help you
Squarespace.
put together
Squarespace.
a beautiful...
Shout out to Austin McConnell. Let's see if he hit his goal. Getting a little hot in here. In fact, I would say the story isn't ridiculous at all. I feel like it's the most basic story. I do like his gumption, and I thought his filmmaking, his video itself was good. He made it to $47,405 with 1,000 backers. Wait, with only 1,000 backers? Ladies and gentlemen, that was Austin McConnell. We found him because of that cheating in the Special Olympics video, but we also got to watch what he's doing with some superheroes. And I think it's really cool that he has such an engaged community and he actually has ideas to do things. Besides just like, I don't know, watch other YouTubers make videos. Hope you guys like this one at least, and then we can make more of them in the future. And then eventually we can farm our own Kickstarter. You know how it works. It's an easy one.